In this week's drive, we get on track with an African racing team, get some serious new angles on mixed dirt and road racing, go from racing driver to crash test dummy in one corner, and find the quickest way to beat the traffic in Romania. All this and more in this week's Drive. Ferrari's record-breaking season may go down in the Formula One history books as the peak of Michael Schumacher's career, and the 2004 winning team gathered at Monza to celebrate a dream season with thousands of fans.
Grazie per il vostro supporto, viva la Ferrari!
The team wrapped up the longest championship in Formula One history with 15 wins from 18 races and their 6th consecutive Constructors' crown. Schumacher took 13 wins, a record for a single season, while his 7th title should stand unmatched for decades, if the 35-year-old German doesn't capture an 8th next year. Ferrari claimed a record 262 points, 82% of the total available. The German could never have imagined such a dream scenario before he decided to join Ferrari from Benetton back in 1996.
Ferrari was a sort of option, but it wasn't very serious initially, because when I think about Ferrari at the time, were my thought, didn't finish many races, didn't win a lot of times, so it was for me not really a big option until, I have to say, I met Jean Todt and our president. When I met these people, the story changed a lot, because with the human aspect I got to know a little bit more about the team, and my choice was a lot more easy to decide for Ferrari. It has developed something which I would have never expected, because the initial time being in Formula One was like you being in somewhere in the sea with not one or two sharks, with thousands of sharks around you, and you don't know which one is the one who's going to bite you first. With being in Ferrari, I learned that most of the sharks were dolphins. Now my life in Formula One is just very relaxed and easy and nice. I just enjoy the time being here. We have a great success. My private life has been turning out in a fantastic way. It's just a love dream I live.
It wasn't all plain sailing, however. At the inaugural Chinese Grand Prix, he qualified 17th and laboured to 12th place, the worst finish of his entire career. South Africa has celebrated the launch of the country's team for the global A1 Grand Prix Series, promoted as the World Cup of Motorsport.
On behalf of Mr. Tokyo Sehwale and A1 Grand Prix South Africa, it is indeed my privilege and honour to welcome you all.
National teams and drivers in identical cars will make skill the main determining factor. South African President Thabo Mbeki was one of over 1,000 dignitaries at the unveiling.
When it draws attention to what it does in terms of human societies, that there would be a South African car, South African colour, South African driver, and so on, makes an extraordinary statement about South Africans. And I'm very glad that you've given us the possibility to make that statement about ourselves.
Teams from Lebanon, Pakistan, China and Portugal have already signed their contracts to compete in the new season, set to start racing at the end of 2005. Canada, Malaysia and Australia have also joined. The evening was hosted by Tokyo Sehwale, seat holder for the South African team. Sehwale is a successful businessman and former politician, having spent 18 years in prison on Robben Island along with his friend Nelson Mandela. Mbeki even clambered into the car himself, a rare experience for the president, who says he no longer drives because he has never paid a traffic ticket he was given 28 years ago.
Motor racing was special because when you're in prison you sit. you are imprisoned, you have time. And motor racing, particularly F1, is quite long. So prisoners watched it quite long. Nelson Mandela knew almost all the drivers by name: Lotus, cars, Ferraris, McLarens. Knew the drivers, liked Ayrton Senna very much. Met Ayrton Senna when he came out of jail. Was very disappointed after the death of Senna.
I know for sure that the world is taking notice of A1, and simply by the turnout here. And I'm sure each launch will get bigger. I mean, you see competitiveness about, I have a bigger launch than your launch, and my car is nicer than your car. I mean, we have people saying, no, let's redesign our car, let's do this, let's do that. So it's brilliant. I mean, the competition started before actually the event starts.
I think the concept, more than anything else, is just absolutely fantastic. It's nations against nations, and the ability to be able to change the driver if you so wish, because the most important aspect is going to be the nation and the team. And I mean, I just think the concept's fantastic, and it can't help but succeed.
Identical cars without electronic aids and with over 550 brake horsepower will race in the Northern Hemisphere winter during the Formula One off-season. Like Ferrari, the German Mercedes-Benz factory racing effort recently opened up for the annual Stars and Cars entertainment event and end-of-year demonstration of its past and present. The McLaren Formula One team have had a dismal year, and the DTM team drivers lost the championship to Audi driver Matthias Ekstrom. But that didn't deter thousands of fans who turned out to see their favourite drivers and cars up close. Austrian Alexander Wurz and Pedro de la Rosa are the test drivers for the McLaren team, and they were in demand with the fans. The cars from the German touring car teams put in a few display laps before all the drivers were given mementos of a close-fought season. Foremost among them was young English driver Gary Paffett, who narrowly missed winning the series after his car ran out of fuel after a race and he was ultimately disqualified. With obvious support from the crowd, outgoing Scottish driver David Coulthard managed to hide his bitterness at being dumped by McLaren with a smile. The 13 times Grand Prix winner will be replaced by Juan Pablo Montoya at McLaren, and team boss Ron Dennis looked embarrassed at the support for Coulthard. But high up on the building, a surprise was in store for the assembled fans. Double world Formula One champion Mika Häkkinen appeared with the stunning announcement that he was to come back out of retirement to race in the DTM Touring Car Series next year. Häkkinen retired from Formula One in 2001, but tested a DTM car in Germany last month. He will race an AMG Mercedes C-Class in the series.
Motor racing is my life, and not only motor racing, it is driving a racing car. And we started talking with Norbert and with the Mercedes people about me coming back to racing, and we understood that way the DTM in 2005 is the best option and the most ideal for all of us, and that definitely makes me very happy.
His former teammate, Kimi Räikkönen, scored just 1 win and 2 seconds this season and will have Montoya as a teammate next year.
Yeah, it's different to have a new teammate, but in the end it doesn't change my position in a team or my work in a team. But it will be interesting to see what happens next year. But I think so it will be good fun, and we see how we do.
Coulthard is hoping for a return to Williams to replace Montoya after Williams failed to snatch Jenson Button away from BAR.
At this moment, obviously, I've made it quite clear that I would like to continue racing and continue in Formula One. And that's my goal. That's what I work towards.
Häkkinen hopes to be competitive soon in a championship that has given a career extension to other retired Formula One drivers such as France's Jean Alesi. McLaren will just be hoping for a return to the glory days when they ruled supreme. Atlanta was the place to race for round 33 of 36. The race on the wide oval got off to a clean start a week after 10 people, including members of team owner Rick Hendrick's family, died in a plane crash. But just 52 laps into the race, the series points leader Kurt Busch saw his day come to an abrupt end with a blown engine. Not good, nearing the end of the championship. On lap 177, Matt Kenseth suffered the same fate as Busch, as his car also blew up its engine.
It blew up. I think it broke some in the valve train, but I blew it up now.
Dale Earnhardt was among the contenders for the title, but with just 15 laps to go, his championship hopes were dealt a blow when he crashed with Carl Edwards. Later, Earnhardt said the crash was not Edwards' fault, but the result of two drivers going hard for the lead. The replay from Earnhardt's in-car camera showed just how hard he hit the inside wall. Because of the crash, Earnhardt fell to 5th in the points table, 98 points behind the leader, Kurt Busch.
3 and 4.
Although Mark Martin dominated much of the race, Jimmy Johnson took the lead after the last pit stops and held on for his 3rd consecutive victory and his 7th this season. With the win, Johnson moves from 9th to 2nd in the points race, 59 behind Busch. But because of the recent tragedy involving the Hendrick team, it was a subdued celebration with crew members from all 5 of Hendrick's teams in the victory circle along with Johnson. 7 days previously, Johnson's victory at Martinsville was completely overshadowed by the plane crash. Going into the final race of the year at the Nürburgring, the European Formula 3000 Championship was wide open. But championship leader Fabrizio Del Monte was eliminated at the start when his fast-starting teammate Tor Graves had to swerve under full power to avoid a stalled car ahead of him. Unaware of the chaos behind them, the leading pack arrived at the first corner and 3 more cars speared off into the scenery, among them pole sitter and title contender Norbert Siedler of Austria. Any hopes of the title were gone for Del Monte and Siedler, who at least managed to drive back to the pits but was forced out with suspension damage. You can only imagine what the 2 drivers and the team manager would say to each other away from the cameras. This left Nicky Pastorelli with only a challenge from Alex Lloyd to prevent him winning both the race and the championship. Although Lloyd closed up to 0.4 of a second at one point, he was not fast enough to overtake Pastorelli and finished 2nd. A replay shows that Del Monte was disastrously unlucky. As a back row starter, you can't see what's happening ahead, and if a car stalls or is slow away, you have to react fast. Fausto Ippoliti and Bernhard Aunger passed Belgian teenager Maxime Hodenk, and Johnny Reed made up ground to join the battle for 3rd, while Hodenk was also being caught by Matthias Lauda. It was this collision between them which caused a 2nd safety car outing. Lauda made a lunge up the inside of Hodenk and the 2 tangled wheels, causing the GP racing driver to roll. It was at a slow part of the circuit, and the structure of the car performed perfectly to keep the driver intact and unhurt. Hodenk's only injury was a sore foot caught up in the pedals. The retirements of Lauda with suspension damage and Giudici reduced the field to just 7 cars. Bernhard Aunger was the fastest driver on the track, and when Ippoliti ran wide on lap 33, the Austrian took advantage and moved up to 3rd place behind Pastorelli and Lloyd. Thus, an ecstatic Nicky Pastorelli of the Netherlands won the final race of the Euro 3000 Championship in Germany to take the championship by just 1 point from Del Monte, with Siedler a further 8 points back. The 2-day Battle of Kings event reached its conclusion in Ibiza. Participants included current World Indoor Trials champion Adam Raga, Dakar Rally motorbike winner Nani Roma, 2004 MX3 World Motocross champion Yves de Maria, German touring car champion Matthias Ekström, MotoGP star Max Biaggi, and special guests such as Niki Lauda and his son Matthias. The idea behind the event is to find the world's top motorsportsmen, and the disciplines included jet skis, hovercrafts and quad bikes. Battle of the Kings is the brainchild of Austrian Heinz Kinnegadner, and the event was being staged for the 4th time. Former motocross and rally champion Kinnegadner came up with the idea of combining various land and water motorsport disciplines into one competition. Kinnegadner is also one of the initiators of the Wings for Life Foundation, to which proceeds from the competition will go. Wings for Life, established by Kinney and his friends, has set itself the goal of making sure that no young athlete has to spend the rest of his or her life in a wheelchair after an accident. Through their participation, the stars of the Battle of Kings made both a moral and a financial contribution to this ambitious research project into the central nervous system. The foundation also develops innovative therapies and prevention measures. Max Biaggi may have been surprised by the elements that make up the Battle of the Kings, but he certainly enjoyed his time in Ibiza.
Crazy, wet, dirty, good, that's okay.
The title would eventually go to Yves de Maria, although the race car team of father and son, Nicky and Matthias Lauda, Matthias Ekstrom, Martin Tomczyk and Chris Rosenberger were the top team. The 2004 Supermoto season continued with a track built on a disused airport runway in Athens, Greece, staging round 7. Standings leader Thierry van den Bosch was the fastest rider in qualifying, and he started the S1 Super Final from pole position. However, a flying start from his KTM teammate Boris Chambon saw van den Bosch second into the first corner. The two Frenchmen soon left their rivals to battle for third place. But Van den Bosch had a smooth ride over the whoops and leapt past Chambon to take the lead on lap 3. Further down the field, Eddie Seal was riding towards a deserved podium place. The Belgian Husqvarna rider finished every one of the 20 laps in third place. With a clear track ahead of him, Van den Bosch cruised to his 5th win of the season, with Chambon crossing the line 3.7 seconds later, with Seal still in third place. Van den Bosch now has 259 points at the top of the S1 Championship standings, with his teammate Chambon on 224 points and Seal on 214. Italian Massimo Verderosa started the supporting class S2 Super Final from pole position and held the lead going into the first corner. But the championship leader soon came under pressure from compatriot David Gozzini. Verderosa would hang on to first place for the first 4 laps, but finally succumbed to pressure from Gozzini. Gozzini wasn't troubled over the remaining 15 laps and picked up his 2nd win of the season, crossing ahead of Verderosa and Jerome Giraudo. Verderosa increased his lead over the Frenchman at the top of the championship standings. Despite the win, Gozzini remains 3rd in the standings within 2 points of Giraudo. Fine weather, beautiful Romanian scenery, thousands of spectators and a crossover course of a new kind with the ingredients for the first Red Bull Romaniacs event. The marathon enduro race, which climaxed in the town of Sibiu, was won by Frenchman Cyril Dupre riding a KTM, who took victory despite this fall. Pole Bartosz Zabluki was 2nd on a Yamaha, with Finn Kari Tainanen and South African Alfie Cox both riding KTMs, filling the next 2 places. All are highly experienced enduro riders and veterans of races such as the Paris-Dakar ultramarathons. A brick factory unused for years, with obstacles of concrete, wood and steel, a mobile bridge over the river and an asphalt route in the inner city, made the riders sweat for 2 hours on the final stage. It was obvious that the tired participants and the organiser, Martin Frindabets, were very satisfied with the way the event was run. Dupre declared it was the best enduro track he'd ever ridden. The Frenchman said the race was long, hard and very technical, which was to his advantage. 4th-placed Cox was also very impressed. "I thought I was living in paradise in Africa, but what I saw riding through this landscape beats everything else," he said. The race, with 100 starters, consisted of a prologue in Bucharest, followed by 4 daily races across the Romanian Carpathians before the final in Sibiu. The prize-giving ceremony for the 2004 FIM MotoGP World Championship took place in Valencia after the final race of the season. It saw the presentations of medals by FIM President Francesco Zerbi to the 3 world champions, Valentino Rossi in MotoGP, Dani Pedrosa in 250s and Andrea Dovizioso on 125s.
El trofeo de campeón del mundo de MotoGP.
So Francesco Zerbi there presenting Valentino with his award and his medal.
Rossi was presented with the special MotoGP trophy by the president of Valencia, Francisco Camps, and Dorna's CEO, Carmelo Espeleta. Other awards were presented to the second and third, classified in each category, respectively Sete Gibernau and Max Biaggi. Just days later, Biaggi broke his ankle testing a supermoto bike and underwent surgery.
Yes, at the beginning, for sure, we don't expect to fight for win the championship. We know it's possible to make a good season, but not win. But during the year, we improve a lot, we stay concentrated, and we understand it's possible. And after a great fight, for sure some great races, we are able to win the championship, so it's perfect.
In the 250s, Argentina's Sebastian Porto collected the runners-up medal and Randy de Punier third behind the champion, 19-year-old Dani Pedrosa of Spain.
250cc world champion.
Hector Barbera and Roberto Locatelli were second and third in the 125s, behind Italy's Andrea Dovizioso.
And Mr. Zerbi giving Andrea Dovizioso his medal.
And finally, in an event which would make millions of bike racing fans glow green with envy, basketball legend Michael Jordan fulfilled the ambition of a lifetime when he completed several laps of the Ricardo Tormo circuit aboard a MotoGP bike, one of the fastest motorcycles in the world. A keen motorcyclist since the age of 5, the former Chicago Bulls star was on a private trip with friends to see the final MotoGP round of the season. Having met the American riders in MotoGP, he rode a 230 bhp Ducati Desmo Sodici two-seater prototype normally used by riders like Randy Mamola to give lucky VIP passengers the rides of their lives. Curtis Roberts on his Proton, Spanish Honda rider Sete Gibernau, Texan Colin Edwards and Suzuki rider Kenny Roberts Jr. were on hand to escort Jordan around the track and to show him the preferred racing lines. Curtis and Kenny are the sons of Proton team boss Kenny Sr., himself a 3-times world 500cc champion. Initially, Jordan was supposed to be a passenger on the bike with Mamola, but he's simply too tall. In fact, he was almost too tall to ride it himself and was unable to tuck his knees behind the fairing. Afterwards, Jordan revealed that Gibernau had talked him into riding the high-powered racer. He said it was fun, but he only got the Ducati up to 4th gear and couldn't imagine what the bikes were like wide open in 6th. He said the straights were no problem, but he was trying to find the markers for the corners, and then he had the other guys riding alongside him, tapping him on the leg. He admitted that he was trying to pull a wheelie, but in the end, he was a bit too scared, so he just waved, feeling he needed a bit more time to get used to all that power. He then joined Valentino Rossi on the track in a BMW 645 Ci, Rossi's best qualifier award for a year-long qualifying time, just 0.96 of a second ahead of Gibernau.
Don't dance, man. Is it okay? 36. Great.
You weren't riding with me, but you go with him?
Never again. I should have realized when he put his seatbelt on. I knew something was up. Oh, my goodness.
Grandissimo.
Oh,
So, whether you like your action red and smoking, spinning and pounding, or just jumping and muddy, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.